go make a bigger audience, not for me, but for God. Because His words can find one person. You know, I'll put 3 cameras up if I have to. You know, but no. I hope everybody had a really good week so far. I hope my message ain't too bad today. I know the message, I like to say, I know it like the back of my hand, but it's just, I didn't get it all highlighted. And I don't like just going off what I say, I like going off what the Bible says. Because it's not about what I say, it's about what God says. And, but I know that I was throughout the week, with all the stuff with Israel going on and stuff. Man, just pause for a sec. I remember when I was first coming to church here, I was about the only one that sat on that side, me and Rita. And now it's kind of swapped. Everybody's over there. I thought it was the fact I didn't bathe once a month. But no, all this stuff with the Middle East and everything, the eclipse happening, people were starting to spectate. You know, oh, this could be the end of times. This could be a sign battling in the promised land. But it's like I was telling my wife going to Kroll yesterday, go eat lunch with Rita and my mother-in-law. I said, you know, that's the thing that gets me about people is they don't read the Bible. The Bible just say, you know, it's going to be eclipse and battling Israel, and that's going to be end times. No, there's still things to come. There's still the devil's supposed to have his son come to this world and start performing miracles and be praised and win over a lot of people and turn against Christians, and that's when Christians are going to be put into little, you know, camps, concentration camps like the Jews were, and also the mark of the beast and all this other stuff. They're forgetting about that, and God don't just say, put it in the Bible to say, oh, just ignore this part because this is going to happen because man says it's going to happen. No, those that read the Bible will know what end times are about. And and the thing is I love reading the Bible, and this is one of the books right here. In the Bible, there's only 2 books about women, and it's Esther and Ruth. And this is the book of Esther I'm reading out of today, and it's a really, really good read. And I don't like calling them stories because, like I say, people just tell them a story and they just think a fairy tale. But this is an actual event of people that lived in the Bible that was documented, and their life and the things that happened, and people think, well, the Bible's too old to relate to my life now. No, it's not. These things right here happen. If they happened then, they'll happen now. And like I say, I'm going to have to jump through this because this is a large read. I don't even know if we were finished today or not. Y'all might have to come back tonight for part 2. But I'll try. I want to do it justice. And Book of Esther starts off with a king. And not a king, he's an emperor. I'm sorry. Xerxes is his name. And if you ever watched the movie 300, you know what the Xerxes, you know, he's, yeah, just. But anyway, he's this ruler, Persian ruler, and he's very powerful, because he's got 127 provinces stretching out from India to Kush is his domain. So this guy he's it. I mean, he wants to call himself God. There's nobody that's going to deny him that, because he's just that powerful. He can kill anybody. I mean, he's a ruler of, like I say, a big area. But anyway, he was celebrating. If you read down here on 10, I'd say go back and read this entire thing. But I can say I can't read it all in one deal because it's just so long. But in verse 10, it starts off on the 7th day when King Xerxes was having in high spirits from wine. He commanded the 7 eunuchs who served him, which I'm not going to mutilate their names, but they're there if you want to go back and read them, to bring before him the queen, Vashti, wearing her royal crown, in order to display her beauty to the people and the nobles, for she was lovely to look at. But when the attendants delivered the king's command, Queen Vashti refused to come. Why did she refuse to come? Because they had been drinking for 7 days. This was a 7-day, basically like 7-day orgy. And he was asking his wife to come and show her beauty and dance in front of his friends. And I don't know about y'all, but I know if I got drunk and started trying to get my wife to come dance in front of my friends, how that would fly. That would be like a handicapped Superman. That wouldn't get off the ground, okay? Yeah, because I say, hey, get up here and dance. Now, she probably wouldn't dance for me, let alone my friends and stuff, you know.
She would kill you.
Yeah, there wouldn't be an 8th day. Mine would have ended on the 7th, okay? This is where it would have ended at on the 7th day with me. Yeah. Because my wife is high-spirited, and I love that about her. Because, she's, because it's like in Genesis, it says that we're supposed to rule together. We're not supposed to dominate the women like in Israel and all these other cultures. But it says here that, let's see, Queen Vashti refused to come. Then the king became furious and burned with anger. Since it was customary for the king to consult experts to the matter of law and justice, he spoke to the wise men and who understood the times were closing to the king, or closest to the king. Now, what he's doing is because he knows that he's a king, and he's got to squash this right now, because if he lets it go further, all these women around the kingdom are going to start disrespecting their husbands, because in this time, it was a lot different for women. Women were dominated by men. And that's where people have manipulated the Bible, like I say. But, and so he's got to do something. So this is where he decides to take away her being queen and pushed her out of the kingdom. And then it says here that, where am I at? It says later in chapter 2, it says later, verse 1, later when the anger of King Xerxes had subsided, he remembered Vashti and that would be done to her, so he decreed about her. The king's personal attendants proposed to let her search be made for young, beautiful virgins for the king. Let the king appoint commissioners in every province of his realm to bring all these beautiful girls into his harem, and let them be placed under the care. And they were going to take it and treat them, do the beauty treatments and everything else. And you got to remember now, these are 127 provinces that he's ruling over, and bringing all the virgins forth. That's going to be a lot of women he's going to have to go through to judge and see who wants to be his wife. Well, down here in 7, the bottom of 7, it says, the girl who also known as Esther was lovely in form and features, and Mordecai had taken her as his own daughter when her father and mother died, because he was an older cousin. And so he took her in to raise her. But he just treated her as a daughter because of the age difference between them. Mordecai was way older than her. Now, it says here, Esther also, this is in bottom of 8, chapter 2 still. It says, Esther was also taken to the king's palace and instructed to Haggai, who had charge of the harem. They placed the girls who won favor. Immediately, he provided her with, I guess I jumped the gun, with beauty treatments and special food. And 10, Esther had not revealed her nationality and family background because Mordecai had forbidden her to do so. So she's hiding the fact that she's a Jew. And this will come out here in just a second. Bless you. Now 17 says, now the king was attracted to Esther more than to any other women, and so he won her favor and approval more than any other of the virgins. So he set her a royal crown on her head and made her queen instead of Vashti's. And 19, this is where Mordecai comes into play, because Mordecai he's a really good guy. You'll learn more about him. He reminds me of some people I know. When the virgins were assembled, it's 19, assembled a second time, Mordecai was sitting at the king's gate, but Esther had kept her secret for her family background from her nationality, just as Mordecai had told her to. For she continued to follow Mordecai's instructions as she had done when she was bringing her up. During the time Mordecai was sitting at the king's gate, Bethania, and two of the king's officers who guarded the doorway became angry and conspired to assassinate King Xerxes. But Mordecai found out of the plot and told Queen Esther, who in turn reported to the king, giving credit to Mordecai. And then the report was investigated and found to be true, so the two officials were hanged on the gallery. All this was recorded in the book of the annals in the presence of the king. Now that'll come into play as well. There's a lot of things I like that's being read that's going to come out and be really significant in the unfolding of all this. Like I say, it's like a 2-hour message if I preached it all together. That's the reason I'm trying to get it short, but I want to get you the feeling of these people. Like I say, these are these people's lives. And Mordecai is doing what most people would do. If there was a culture that was ashamed of where they came from, they would hide from their families, like he's doing with Esther. He would hide that so that way she wouldn't feel shameful around other people, because they knew if she was a Jew, they'd think less of her. Because, people, as long as they don't know who you are, they're like, hey, he's a good guy. This guy just got out of prison for serving a 20-year stint, and you just meet him for an hour and you think he's a good guy. And that's what he's doing right here. He's hiding the fact that she's a Jew. And, but when he reports it to Queen Esther, so that way he'd give her more favor for her reporting, but she told the king, or the investigators, that Mordecai was the one that discovered these two guys plotting to kill Xerxes. Now, after the events, King Xerxes honored Haman. This is in chapter 3. This is another person that's brought out here. After these events, King Xerxes honored Haman, son of, that word is broken up in my Bible, so it's kind of Hamadithi, something like that, an Agagite, evaluating him and giving him the seat of honor higher than all the other nobles. All the royal officials at the king's gate knelt down and paid honor to Haman, for the king had commanded these concerning him. But Mordecai would not kneel down or pay honor. The royal officials at the gate asked Mordecai, why do you disobey the king's command? Day after day they spoke to him, but he refused to comply. Therefore they told Haman about it to see whatever Mordecai's behavior would be tolerated. For he had told them he was a Jew. Now the reason why Mordecai is not bowing to Haman, because he believes in God. He believes in Jesus. Well, not God, Jesus at the time, but he believed in God. And he bowed to no man but God. And that's what we're supposed to do, is not bow to a human being, but to God only. But that's what this guy's doing, is he's just, Haman is this guy that's just been appointed, and he's walking around just, strutting like a peacock, wanting people to honor him and ooh and ah over what he has. And that's the thing about Mordecai, he's not going to do that. He's like, I don't care who you are. You put your pants on the same way I do, one leg at a time. Well, at the time they wore robes. But I put one arm in your robe at a time like I do. And, but do we know people like that in our life that think that there's something a little bit special in their life? Like you might go to a banker or something, he just thinks he's a little bit better than you. Or a doctor or something you go to and they just think they're a little bit better than you. I mean, I know when I had my second back surgery, I went to this doctor, and he walked in the room, and it was like Christopher Reeve standing as Superman. The fan was blowing, his hair was just flapping in the wind, American flag in the background. And this guy, I mean, he talked down to me like I was stupid. I mean, he come in here and talked to me like I was stupid. And the thing about doctors is you got to realize, remember, they're working for you. You're paying them. Without you, they don't have a job. Well, anyway, I go in there and this guy's telling me how he's going to fix me. These hands are magic. I'm going to touch you and you're going to be walk away healed. And so anyway, I go and have my surgery. And he tells me within 6 weeks I should be getting ready to go back to work, you know. Well, 6 weeks, I'm still hurting. I got this pain running down my leg. I'm hurting. He's like, well, I touched you with these hands. Why are you not healed? He said, are they doing the therapy right? I'm like, yes, I'm doing it therapy just like they told me to do it. And but yet he couldn't understand why I hadn't been blessed with the miracles that he carries through his fingers, you know. And so the last time I saw him, he put his thumbs on my back where he did this incision at and pushed on it like it's a piece of Lego or something's going to pop into place. And I mean, brought tears to my eyes. I was sitting there hurting really bad when he was doing it. But it was just the fact that this guy was so arrogant to realize that you can't heal everybody, you know. And and this is what this guy Haman's like. He's like, you know, how dare you disrespect me? You bow to me. You know, I'm higher up than you. Well, anyway, it says down here in verse 8 on chapter 3. Then Haman said to King Xerxes, there is a certain people dispersed and scattered among the people in all the province of your kingdoms, whose customs are different from those of all of our other people, and who do not obey the king's law. It is not in the king's best interest to tolerate them. If it pleases the king, let decree be issued to destroy them, and I will put 10,000 talents of silver into the royal treasure for the men who carry out this business. So now he's going to king and he's saying, hey dude, these guys are disrespecting you. And it's not them, it's one guy. That's the arrogancy of this guy right here. He's wanting to wipe out a whole race because there's a lot of Jewish people. And he's wanting to wipe out the entire race because one guy is disrespecting him. How is it? Can you see God in this guy's heart? Can you see God in this guy's heart where he's sitting there wanting to kill everybody for one guy? Chapter 4, verse 1. It says, when Mordecai learned of all this that had been done, he tore his clothes off and put on sackcloth and ashes. That's what people do when they're in mourning. They tear their clothes off, they put sackcloth on and ashes all over their face and body, so that way they're publicly known they're in mourning. And went out to the city, wailing loudly and bitterly, but went only as far as the king's gate, because no one in sackcloth was allowed to enter. Now in 4, it says, when Esther's maid and the eunuchs came and told her about Mordecai, she was in great distress, because she didn't know what was going on with her cousin. She's like, why is he mourning? Why is he mourning, you know? So she sent clothes for him to put on instead of the sackcloth, but he would not accept them. Then Esther summoned Hathach, one of the king's eunuchs, assigned to attend her, and ordered him to find out what was troubling Mordecai and why. So the eunuch, I'll just call him eunuch, I'm butchering his name, so went out to Mordecai and opened the square of the city in front of the king's gate. Mordecai told him everything that had happened, including the extra amount of money Haman had promised to pay for the royal treasure for destruction of the Jews. Now I go down here to 11. All the king's officials and the people of the royal province knew, for that any man or woman who approached the king in inner court, in inner court, without being summoned, the king had but one law, that was put to death. The only exception was that the king extended his gold scepter to him, and his life was spared. But 30 days have passed since, and so that's what Mordecai, he's like, 30 days have passed since he's gotten information back to Esther. Nothing has happened. And he's like, what are you doing? You know, I mean, and this is what he says in his words when he says after 30 days, he says, when Esther's words were reported to Mordecai, he sent back this to answer. He says, do you think that because you're in the king's house, you are alone, all the Jews will escape? For if you remain silent at this time, relief and deliverance for the Jews will arise from another place. But you and your father's family will perish. And you know but that you have came to royal position for such a time as this. And that's what Mordecai is telling Esther. You've been put in this position by God. Because God puts us in position for a reason. And sometimes we get in that position and then we get lazy. You know? And that's not what God puts us there for. But he's telling her, if you don't do this, your family's going to perish. But somebody else will be in your place. Because God's going to send somebody else. Because if you don't do it, God's going to put somebody else up there. But that's the thing, is God, because he's going to take away your blessings as well. Because if he puts you there and you just stay in that position and you just don't do nothing towards God, you're just going to let all these family members, Mordecai, that helped you get in this position by giving you that information, saying that these guys are going to kill Xerxes. That guy, got a little bit closer, saying, hey, this girl's worried about me and my life. But now she's up there in this temple, being this castle, whatever it is, and she's like, hey, they're below me now. And he's reminding her, you're still a Jew. You might think you're a queen, you are a queen, but you're also a Jew. And this thing right here says all Jews are going to be killed. All Jews. So Esther in chapter 5. I want to make back up. In 15, then Esther sent the reply to Mordecai, go gather together all the Jews at Susha and fast for me. Do not eat or drink in 3 days or nights or day, and all the maids will fast as you do. When this is done, I will go to the king, even if it's against the law, and I will perish. And if I should perish, I perish. So saying, I'm going to do this whether I'm going to die or not. So Mordecai went away and carried out all of Esther's instructions. You know the thing about this read right here, this chapter, this book, it's a pretty good sized book, is it never mentions God. Never mentions God in this book. But what are they doing? They're fasting. And why would they fast? They're fasting to show God that they need His what? His blessings. His blessings upon Esther so she don't get killed. Because she's going to go to the king. Because the king, just imagine this, ladies. If you could not go into your man cave. You couldn't go in there unless he asked you to come in there. So you couldn't go up there and just knock on the door, hey, let me in, You have to ask permission or be asked to come in. And she's uninterruptedly going to ask the king. And the only thing is that the king has to reach out his gold scepter and pray that he stepped out that gold scepter. If not, she's going to be put to death by law. And so she goes to him and he extends that gold scepter out and accepts her in. And he says to her, my queen, why have you summoned me? And she tells him, because he said, everything up to half of my wealth you're blessed with. What is it? And she says, I want to have a dinner with you and Haman. Haman. Okay, I'm just going to, it's in here. Trust me, it's in here. Because it's almost 12. And so he says, cool, okay, we go this. So they have a feast gathered up for him. Well, that night she goes to him and she gets scared. She sees Haman and she gets scared. She can't ask the king. And the king said, so what? Why did you have this meal for us? This certain, and she's like, well, I just asked you, can we do another one tomorrow night? Can we do another one tomorrow night? And he's like, yeah, we'll do this. Well, on the way home, Haman is like, this dude is really pounding his chest now. He's like, you know what? Not only am I cool with the king, but now the queen's inviting me to go eat with her not once, but twice tomorrow too. And so he's walking home, he's proud of himself, and then guess who he sees? He sees old Mordecai. Old Mordecai's out there, and he don't bow to him again. And this time that happiness and boasting just got anger. Boy, how dare you? So now he goes on, talks to his wife and his friends, and they say, you know what? Build a galley 75 feet high, and we're going to hang Mordecai from that. So tomorrow we'll hang Mordecai, and then you can go to the king and celebrate, have a dinner, and your enemy's dead. So that's what he has them start erecting that 75-foot galley. Now, the king can't sleep. He's restless that night. And so he's like, you know what? Go get some of them books. Because they didn't have regular books back then. They just had the scrolls and stuff. He's go get some of them scrolls and read to me the events that happened in his kingdom. And they're sitting there reading. And all of a sudden they come across where Mordecai had reported the two guys trying to conspiracy against Xerxes and kill him. And he's like, oh, wow, that guy did that for me? He said, how did I honor him? He said, you didn't. You didn't do nothing for him. He's like, really? The guy saved my life and I didn't do nothing for him? He's like, no. He said, well, I'm going to change it tomorrow. So the next day he gets up and he calls Haman to come over to his office. He said, hey, come up to my kingdom, go into his office, whatever it is, royal chamber. He goes in there and he says, hey, he said, what would you do if I wanted to honor somebody or honor a man that has helped the king? And Haman's like, oh man, he's talking about me. He said, what would you do to honor him? He said, man, I'd give him a royal robe, one that you've worn. A royal robe. Really? Yeah, I'd give him the king's ring too. Oh, you get a king's ring? Yeah. And because this is stuff he's wanting. He said, I'd give him a royal horse to ride on, one of the kings had ridden. He's like, oh, really? That's cool. Yeah, do that. And Xerxes says, oh, yeah? He said, yeah. He said, okay, now go and get Mordecai and put him on that horse and walk him around the city and parade around him that this is what the king does for people that help him. Could you imagine how Haman felt on that? Could you imagine how he just went from a hero, now he's got to walk this guy around that he literally hates. He hates this man passionately, where he had built a 75-foot galley he's going to hang him from that evening. And now he's got to put him on a horse and walk him around. I mean, that just shows how, don't go to it, but it's here, Proverbs. And 29, verse 1, it says, a man who remains stiff-necked after many rebukes will suddenly be destroyed without remedy. In 27, verse 1, Proverbs, do not boast about tomorrow, for you do not know what tomorrow may bring forth. And that's just one day. Yesterday he was high up on here. Now he's walking his enemy by horse. And I'm going to have to end this now, but because it's still a lot to go, but I'll finish it tonight. But if you take anything, I'd say read this. It's a really good read. It's a really good read. Y'all would bow your heads. I'm going to ask you, I'm going to try to do something different here because I need to reach people. But I'm going to ask you, you ever said this prayer before? I want to say it. You can say it to yourself. If you've never been saved before, this is the prayer. And if you just want to reassure yourself, but dear God, I'm a sinner, and I know my sins deserve judgment. But I want mercy. I need to be saved. Lord Jesus, you died to save me. You shed your blood for me, and you were raised from the dead. You're the Son of God. You promised to save me if I trusted you. I do trust you. And right now, I trust you with all of my heart. Come into my life and forgive me my sin. Save me, Lord Jesus. Keep your heads bowed. Anybody that said that prayer that want to make it public, that they came to God, I ask you to come down in front of the church. Because that's what Jesus did, everything he did publicly. And if anybody wants to join this church, become a member, we ask you to come down as well. And so we can invite you into the church and everybody greet you. But whatever it is on your heart, God weighs, you know what it is. You know what it is. He's telling you. And don't wait till next week. Don't put it off another day, another minute, another second. Whatever it is on your heart, if you want to be prayed with, prayed over, whatever it is, I ask you, if you just want to come down here to the pew and pray by yourself. Dear Heavenly Father, I thank you for this church. I thank you for the people in this church. I thank you for the message that you give us each and every week, Lord. Just let us fill our heart. Let us apply it to our lives, Lord, as well. Because we know we're sinners, Lord. We know that we mess up. We fall short of the grace of God every day, Lord. But by you, Lord, by you and your grace and your love alone, Lord, you just give us the love and all that we need to just keep us in this dark world, just keep us alive. But if we just let us show our light to everyone and just thank you for all that you do and just bless us with a good week. And all God's people said, Amen. Thank y'all.